Hey there everyone, Coach Brandon here with Coach Ant. He's going to be helping me show you guys and teach you guys about some of the foundational skills in the standing position. Okay, there's going to be a lot of content that we cover in this video. We're not going to go over any takedowns yet, but all the skills that we're going to cover are going to be crucial to your success with takedowns. The same way that when we're on the ground, we want to fight for some sort of advantage. When we're in the closed guard, we don't just launch all of our attacks from the closed guard. First, we try to create the side scissor, the top lock, the clamp, or the inside wrist. We try to create these positions of advantage for ourselves so that when we go on to attack, we have a higher likelihood of succeeding with that attack. It's the same thing from the standing position. I'm standing, my partner's standing. If we're in a very neutral kind of scenario, the odds of me finding success with my takedowns on an opponent who's well defensive and knows what they're doing and well balanced, it's going to be pretty hard. So it's going to be up to you to create situations where you have a distinct advantage over your opponent. And we're going to talk about this by breaking down 5 different skills, precursor skills or fundamental standing skills that we need to achieve before we go into our takedowns. And these 5 skills are stance. We have to understand what stance we're using, what stance our opponent's using, and what they're good for. We have to understand stances. Gripping and grip fighting. That's one of the biggest sections of the video. We'll be spending most of our time today on grip fighting and grip breaking. Grips are the foundation of your control over your opponent. And jiu-jitsu is all about control that leads to submission. So if you want to have more control over your opponent than they have over you, you have to make a concerted study of grip fighting. And we're going to spend a lot of time on grip fighting today. Once we have our grips, then we start generating motion, the 3rd skill. We're going to look at how we can use motion to off-balance our opponent to get ourselves into strong positions from where we can attack. Then we move on to off-balancing. It's very difficult to attack an opponent who's in good balance. So we need to use some off-balancing methods once in a while to get our opponent out of position so we can get our attacks going. Then the last skill is position. We're going to look to create one of 2 positions, either the standing flank position, so we have an angle on our opponent we're working toward their back, or the pyramid position, where we expose their center line, and we create situations where we can easily off-balance them forward and backward, but they cannot easily do the same thing to us. So again, we're going to look at these 5 things throughout the video, starting with stance, moving on to grip fighting, going on to motion, going on to off-balancing, and then position. Stance, grip, motion, off balance, position. Let's start with stance. So for stance, guys, understand that there are a few different stances we can adopt. First, people who come out like this, and like a natural upright stance. And a natural upright stance movement is very free. I can easily move around the mat. However, my legs are very vulnerable, so if I have an opponent who's very fast and he were to shoot a very fast shot, he's going to have my leg. So while this is very good for movement, it can be very good for throwing, I am somewhat vulnerable. Then we have a semi-crouch stance, where I'm half crouched. Okay, we'll come back to more of this later. And then a full crouch. So full upright, semi-crouch, full crouch. And upright, I have good movement, poor defense. Semi-crouch is kind of the best of both worlds. I have some movement, I can move around the mat, I can grip fight from here. But I can also attack, I can shoot into the legs, I can come up here and just start going in upper body attacks, etc. Then we have the 3rd stance, full crouch. You'll actually see this relatively often in jiu-jitsu because a lot of people are interested in pulling guard, and it's a hyper-defensive stance. In a full crouch, I can't move very well. My movement is very limited. However, if you were to try to get a takedown, like a shot on me, it's going to be very challenging because my legs are well defended. So this is a very defensive stance, but it's hard to get anything going from here. If I'm working from a full crouch like this, I'm very much limiting my options to either sacrifice techniques, where I throw myself to the floor in an attempt to go and get takedowns, or situations where I just start sliding in and pulling guard. So out of those 3 stances, which should you be using? Well, typically when we first come out and we approach, we'll do it from a natural upright stance. We have good movement. But once we're within arm's reach, we can start gripping. I'm going to recommend you take a semi-crouch. A semi-crouch stance is a good balance between my ability to grip fight, my ability to hit takedowns, but also my ability to defend his shots. There's a couple other stances we got to talk about. These are not solo stances, but they're relational stances. So if I come out with a right leg lead, and Ant has a right leg lead, we refer to this as a closed stance, where the space between us is closed off by our two legs. Okay, then we have an open stance, where he takes a left leg lead, and now the space between us is very open. Okay, so we have an open stance, which is relational, and the other relational is closed. Go ahead, closed, closed. Okay? Why is this important? Well, a couple of reasons. One, if Ant has this leg forward, if I want to work around to an angle, I'm going to be generally working around the lead leg. That'll make it easier for me to get an angle. So if I want to get an angle toward the back, I'm going to be going around the lead leg. If he's in an open stance, and I'm looking to get to the back, it's probably going to be around in this direction. Also, so we talked about that's one of the advantages we can get is to get this flank position while we're standing, to get to an angle where I can start to expose the back. The other advantage position we can get, we can set up, and we'll get to this later as well, is something we call the pyramid position. If Ant stands square to me, completely square your stance up to me, you have nice wide feet, just go ahead and stand naturally because we'll be here for a little bit. In a pyramid position, I'm going to be standing with my foot at the apex of the triangle that's drawn between Ant's 2 feet and my foot. Right here. Okay, I'm standing right on the center line. My left leg is standing behind my lead leg. So what does this do? What's the significance of this configuration? Well, because my legs are lined up front and back, I have a very good ability to drive and retreat. I can apply strong forces in pushing and pulling directions. Ant, on the other hand, because his legs are split side to side, Ant has very little ability to drive and push and pull. If he tries to off-balance me with a strong push from there, it's not going to be very strong. However, if I come here and I start to off-balance, I have a good ability to off-balance because he has no base behind him. Okay, so I'm bladed. I have a good ability to start driving and to start pulling. And it's hard for him to do the same thing to me because I'm well balanced with forward and backward base. How does this pertain to open stances and closed stances? Ant, give me a closed stance. Perfect. So Ant has a right leg lead, I have a right leg lead. The stance is closed. If I want to move to his back, we go around in this direction. If I want to move to the pyramid position is going to be behind me, to my right. So I'm going to be circling in this direction to get to the pyramid position. If Ant takes an open stance, now everything's different. If I have an opponent who's working in an open stance like so, I'm going to be working to the back in this direction. Or if I'm interested in getting to the pyramid position is now in front of me. I'm going to get my grips and be moving in front of Ant, and now I'll have that ability to start pushing and pulling to off balance him. So we have 3 solo stances: natural upright, semi-crouch, full crouch, and we have 2 relational stances: closed and open. Perfect. So it's important you guys understand what stance you should be using and how things change when he has an open stance in relation to me versus a closed stance, where the pyramid position is, etc. So again, in a closed stance, the pyramid position is behind me. And now I have a good ability to push and pull. In an open stance, the pyramid position is in front of me, and I can move in the other direction for a good ability to push and pull. And that's going to do it for stance. Now, let's talk about gripping, the most important section of this video, this week's topic, gripping. First, let's talk about our 2 hands. I have a power hand. A power hand is going to control Ant's head. I usually do it with a straight lapel grip. There are other variations of grips we can use for a power hand as well. but this is the most common. With the power hand, I can get a good ability to off-balance my opponent because I'm controlling the top of the tower. If we imagine Ant as a 6 foot 3 inch tower, okay? If we have a big heavy tower, what's gonna be the easiest way to tip it over? We come up here at the top of the tower, right? Imagine you got this big, 200-pound cylinder. If he's just standing here just like this, if I want to knock over this cylinder, I take a running start at it, where am I going to run into it? Am I going to try to push it out at the base? Probably not. There's 200 pounds laying on that thing. Middle, maybe. Your best bet is to come to the very top of the pillar and push it over. And that's what we're doing with our power hand. Our power hand is controlling our opponent's torso, usually controlling at the head, so I have a great ability to find the pyramid position and now impart very good off-balancing methods through pulls and pushes. And I do that using the power hand. The control hand is usually on my opponent's power hand oftentimes. If I have a right leg lead, he has a right leg lead. This is going to be Ant's power hand. The same side hand as the lead leg. If I'm in this stance, my right arm is my power hand. If I'm in a left leg lead, my left hand is typically my power hand. So when we're in a typical right versus right scenario, this is Ant's power hand. I don't want him to control my head. So one of the first things I'm looking to do is to deny his ability to control my head. Now I set a power hand on him, and now I have an ability to control his balance in his head, and he doesn't have an ability to control mine. So our control hand stops his power hand, and our own power hand allows us to control his stance and his balance. It's not the only thing the control hand does. Let's talk about this a little more. Another thing the control hand does, if I'm interested in going into forward throws, and I square him up, so I'm on the pyramid position, I can now come in, and this control hand allows me to start rotating Ant's shoulders. As I come across for throws, I can use this this control hand to start drawing Ant's head and shoulders forward in positions where I can start to easily throw and off balance him. So we have a power hand and a control hand. Let's talk about some of the different grips I can have with my power hand. We can have a straight lapel grip. This is good. This is probably the most common. We can have a cross collar grip as well. This goes in a little faster. 4 fingers goes in, bam, we set it. If I want to set a straight power hand, usually the first grip I grab is not great initially. We usually need to use the biting method where I'll take a second grip and I'll adjust, sometimes a third grip or a fourth until I get a good strong grip. I'll oftentimes want to use a 2-on-1 lapel feed as well, or I'll come in with my rear hand, take a grip, and I feed that to my power hand so I can set up a good strong grip. Okay? Some other grips for the power hand. If he's in semi-crouch, I can come up over the top and I can grab over the scapula, the shoulder, and I can also use this to get a good strong off-balancing and pulling effect. Okay? We can go with belt grips, either over the arm or under the arm. I use these less, but they are effective. And the belt grip gives me a great ability to start getting Ant's hips out of position because I have direct control of the hips through the belt. Okay. So let's talk about our hierarchies of gripping. Okay? Let's start with the very best scenario for us. Gripping supremacy, complete dominance. Where I come in, I have 2 hands on Ant, and he has no hands on me. I'm completely dominant here. If Ant wants to try to use, if Ant wanted to try to off-balance me here with no grips, good luck. I don't even know how he would do it. Me, on the other hand, because I have 2 hands on Ant, I can start throwing him around the mat like crazy, getting all sorts of off-balancing as I go into takedowns. The next one up is where I have 2 hands on him, and he has only 1 hand on me, usually a weaker variation of a grip. So here, come up to my armpit. This is the one grip I can't stop Ant from ever taking. This is the one grip I can never deny him. If I take a power hand, he can get the armpit grip. It's just the way it works. Okay? He has some control of my torso by controlling my shoulder. It's not quite as good as the head, but it'll work. So he has some degree of control of me. He has one hand on me, I have two hands on him. When he goes to off balance me with that left hand, he can do a little bit, but it's not nearly to the effect that I can start to off balance him. So even though he has a grip on me, it's not as effective as my grip. Okay? Then we have other situations where I'm here and he has two hands on me. Let's say exactly. So now he has two hands on me and I have two hands on him. But my grips are better because my power hand does a better job of controlling his head than his power hand does of controlling my head. When Ant goes to try to push and move me around, he can do so a little bit more. But again, when I go to push and move him around, because I have control at the very top of the tower, I have control of the head, I have a much stronger ability to start getting him out of position and start going into our takedowns. Now let's look at a situation where he has my lapel. I have his, and we both have control hands. Okay? So I have a power hand, he has a power hand. I have a control hand, he has a control hand. In situations like this, the person who's winning and dominating is the one whose power hand is higher. The one whose power hand controls higher on the tower. The one whose power hand controls the head more directly. So in situations like this, I may very well be interested in using my 3-finger grip on the control hand here to start pulling down, using my chin on the wrist and start kind of jackknifing my body to keep a grip, to try to get this hand a little lower on my lapel. If I can come in and get this hand a little lower, now when he goes to push and move my head around, go ahead. Again, he can do it to an effect, a better effect than he could before, but he can't do it as well as I can because I'm working his power hand lower and I'm going to be continually working my power hand higher. Now again, he goes to push and pull me around. I go to push and pull him around. I have a much better ability to do so. So it's all about who can set the higher power hand, who can have better position with their power hand. Okay. Then obviously we can work in the opposite direction where now Ant has a power hand, Ant has the control hand, and now Ant weakens my power hand. And now my power hand's down here. Now things are starting to look worse for me. Ant is in control, I'm in a deficit now. Okay? Even worse, maybe I don't have the lapel at all. He has a, I just have this, right? Where he has a control hand on me. He gets this power hand, control hand. I get a control hand on him, and I can't get to the collar, so I can take a grip right here. Again, I don't have control of Ant's head. I go to push and move Ant around, and it's hard. He goes to push and move me around. He can send me all over the map. Obviously, we can keep working this through. We could have a situation where he has a control hand, he pops it off, and I don't have a grip on him. I only have one grip. Or situations where are terrible where I have 0 grips. Now I go to move Ant around, he goes to move me around, and I'm all over the place. So, when we have situations where I have 2 hands on him, he has none on me, I'm going to start to look and throw this guy. Okay? Throw him, take him down, I'm in the driver's seat. When we start getting situations where we're even, now I want to try to create situations where I can weaken his position, or situations where I can strip his power hand entirely. If we have situations where he's dominating, maybe he strips my power hand, and I have no power hand on him. I would not be working for takedowns at this point. You are not trying to take your partner down. At this point, you have to lower your expectations. Okay? If he has dominant grips on me and I cannot get dominant grips on him, lower your expectations to guard pulls or sacrifice throws where we commit our legs down to the floor. So for instance, I might be here and I might pull a step across into situations where I can up and over into kickover sweeps. So because he had better grips than I had, I couldn't go through some big throw with like a Uchimata, a Tayatoshi, a double leg, a single leg. It was hard for me to go and get these kind of takedowns. But I could still apply takedowns that require me to pull down. I can still sit to my butt. And if I don't get the takedown, who cares? You pull guard. It's not that big of a deal. So our basic grip fighting strategy is to first intercept their power hand. Okay? Intercept their power hand is step one. If we can't intercept it, we're going to strip it. If we can't strip it, we're going to weaken or negate their power hand. And if we can't weaken or negate their power hand, we're going to lower our expectations to guard pulls and sacrificial throws, where we use our body weight to sit and pull. So one more time, we come in. When Ant reaches for my lapel, go ahead. We intercept. We never let him control our head. In a situation where I try to intercept, and he gets it, well, okay, if I couldn't intercept it, the next thing is to be to strip it. I don't want him to control my head, so I'm going to get this damn thing off. When I get here, we're going to look at many different ways to strip. 2-on-1 is a good one. I get this, I set my own power hand on, and now I'm ready to go. So intercept it. Deny it and intercept it. If you can't intercept it, strip it, like I just showed. What if you can't strip it? What if I come here, I'm trying to strip this thing off, it's not working? Well, then we can try to weaken or negate it by taking this power hand. I'm going to jackknife, I'm going to use my head and my chin over his wrist as I throw and try to jack this down the body. So that now when he goes to push and move my head around, it's not as strong. Meanwhile, I'm working my own power hand up, and now I can push and move his head around. Intercept their power hand. Never let them control your head and torso. If you can't intercept it, then strip it. If you can't strip it, then weaken it by working that hand down your lapel. And if you can't weaken it, if they set their power hand, you can't strip it, you can't weaken it. Now it's time to lower your expectations, and we're going to look at how to pull guard offensively, and we're going to look at how to go into sacrificial takedowns as we move on. So if he sets up grips, I'm trying to negate and weaken, and that's just not working, and it's very, very difficult. I can start going into a situation where I can start to pull guard, but I'm going to do so in a way where I don't just sit down and start playing guard. I'm going to do so in a way where I get into a good advantageous position. Maybe I'll separate his 2 feet. I'll step to the inside. I'll go in. See that? And I'll pull right into Ashigarami. And now I can use the Ashigarami to be able to scoop my opponent and get up. So we want to intercept the power hand. If we can't intercept, we want to strip it. If we can't strip it, we want to weaken it. If we can't weaken it, we need to lower our expectation to sacrificial throws and guard pulls. We'll see those later on in the standing curriculum. Now, let's talk about setting grips. Let's talk about body first, cloth second. When I go in and get a grip, I'm not aiming for the cloth itself. This is usually going to be a very weak and feeble grip. Usually I put hands on my partner first, and then I'll get a good grip on the lapel. Body first, cloth second. Okay? So I'll come in, and I'll grip. We can also use a 2-on-1 lapel feed method, where I'll reach up, I'll grab with the opposite hand, and I'll use that hand to feed it, and set my right hand grip, my power hand grip, nice and high. So we have 2-on-1 lapel feed is a great method. Giving to get is a great method. If I want to get my opponent's power hand under my control, but I'm having trouble getting it, sometimes I'll give my partner something, and then before he has time to set it really good, I get his grip. So the give to get method. Give to get. I give him a little something, he takes the bait, and now I have his hand. Okay? Let's talk about setting a cuff grip. Okay. Again, the 2-on-1 method, the slap and catch, as we're moving around. If I just go and try to grab the cuff, that's so hard to do. So we're in here. I'm going to go 2-on-1. I'm going to try to grab the wrist. Once I have the wrist, I'm going to fix up my grip. So we have the slap and catch, where I slap his hand. I slap his hand into my other hand, just like so, and I can fix up my grip. Okay. Let's talk about grip breaking. Grip breaking is one of the most important things that you need to know how to do from the standing position. but not many people talk about it, not many people teach it, and it goes ignored by many people. How many times have you seen this? Two people lock up, and then they dance around the mat, try to reach, try to trip, and they're just sitting here locked up like this, and nobody really knows what to do. You see that all the time in local tournaments. Nobody breaks grips. Nobody understands the importance of breaking grips or how to break grips or whatever, right? I don't know what it is, but let's talk about breaking grips. Let's talk about breaking a lapel grip. First, 2-on-1 break. If I'm here, I like to go here where I take my straight hand. I like to take a cuff grip initially because now I already have my control hand set. I don't want to break the grip and then have him pull his hand away from me and I have no control. So when he has that grip, I'm going to take a grip on the cuff. 4 fingers. Thumb goes inside. I fold the cuff inside out so my 4 fingers latch in. And then my right hand comes in and grab the wrist. Now I don't keep my feet where they are. Strong grip. I'm not going to pull that off. I dance away to the side as I go. I'm not just trying to pull his hand away from my collar. I'm also trying to pull my collar away from the hand. Okay? So we set our grips, cuff grip here, hold on tight, we dance away, we pop, straighten, pop it up. We're here, we're fighting, I take a grip here, I go right here, pop, and now I have my grip set, and I'm ready to start going on the takedowns. One-on-one method, a one-on-one break. Maybe I don't want to have to release this grip. Or maybe he has such a good grip, I can't get this hand there. Okay? So I leave it right on the lapel. Another thing I can do is I can take my 4 fingers right here, grab the cloth, and I'm going to punch right into the bicep. I put my 4 knuckles right into the crook of the elbow, and I punch into the bicep. He's going to hang on. Again, I'm going to move my lapel away from the hand as I punch into the elbow, and I can pop that grip off. Now from here, we square stance up, and now we're ready to start going into our takedowns. How else do I do this? A cross collar grip with a cross shoulder post. So if he's here, another way I can strip this is I can go with a cross collar grip. I can use the heel of my hand to post on the shoulder. As I do this, I can even grab my own lapel in what I call a strip grip. A strip grip, okay? So I'm going to push, pull, and I can take that off. Now I can pass the hand to the inside. I can start to go around into takedowns, maybe a collar drag. We can go into our takedowns. Off balance methods are push and pull too. So we're here. Maybe I'm trying to dance away, pull this, and it's not working. We can use some misdirection, or maybe first I get him going backward, I get him moving that direction, and then I quickly change direction and I snap the grip off the other way. So maybe I'm here, I'm trying to pop this off, it's not working, and I go like this. And I pop that grip off. Sorry about the jaw. So I'm here. He's got a good strong grip. I'm trying to pop, get this off, it's not working. And now that that's off, we can go through and start getting our takedowns. Okay, so we have the 2-on-1 method, we have a 1-on-1 method. We have the cross shoulder post with the strip grip. There's many different ways to break these power hand grips. Let's talk about some other power hand grips. What if he sets a power hand, let's say I'm on a peak of the collar. And a peak power hand grip, he grabs the very top of the collar and he's going to use his elbow as a frame inside my shoulder. Bend the elbow. Now when I try to come in, he has that elbow inside so I can't close the distance, and at any time he can start to move my hand out of position. So he controls distance with the elbow and he controls my head with his hand. So when I have a situation like this, and he's using this elbow to block me out, my goal is to get underneath and inside this elbow. So I might take a scapular grip up here, just like so. Now I'm going to come up here, I'm going to try to throw everything by over my head. My right hand might come here, pop the elbow, and we get over that elbow. So again, he's got that peak collar grip. I want to get inside underneath this elbow, it's in my way. I grab the scapular grip. I could also try to grab here in the armpit. That would also work very well. Then I won't have to use my right hand. So I either have scapula with right hand, I can try to pass that elbow over, or I can grab right here in the armpit, the one grip you can never stop me from getting. Now from here, keep your elbow. I can try to get my wrist, my elbow inside. I flare, get his elbow out of my way, and I pull everything over. And now I'm in, and I can start going into my takedowns. So again, somebody grabs that peak collar grip. Your goal is to get underneath and inside that elbow. I'm here, he grabs that peak collar. I try to get inside, his elbow stops me. So I grab here, I flick my wrist inside of his elbow. I flick my wrist and elbow inside his elbow, here, and then I pull and I take everything over my left shoulder. And now we can start getting in to our takedown game. Let's now go to scapular grip, another grip you can take. Over maybe I'm in semi-crouch, he goes right over here. Now with a scapular grip, he has a good ability to control my posture through the shoulder. Stay on the outside a little bit. Yes, downward pressure. Now when I try to posture up, he has control of that shoulder. If he starts pulling my hands down to the floor, he can start to snap me down, go behind in my back, and things like this. I need to get my shoulder back here. With this grip here, he's dogging my shoulder down. Pull down. I'm trying to get my posture and I can't. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come inside, grab the lapel. Now I'm going to push straighten my left arm as I pummel my shoulder inside of his arm. And now I get my shoulder back up, I have my posture, I have inside position, and now I can start to pull his head around. So again, a scapular grip. I want to posture up, and he's going to keep my posture down. I'm trying to get up, just like that, exactly. I want to stand up, he's not letting me. My left hand goes to the lapel. I'm going to punch this left arm straight as I pummel my shoulder inside of that scapular grip. Now I can start pulling him out of position and go into our takedowns. All right, so if that's how we break a power hand grip. We've done, let's see, straight lapel, rear shoulder, or the shoulder trap, we did the peak collar, cross collar. He goes cross collar, this is also common. This is a more difficult grip to get out. It's usually deeper, and it's harder to strip. So what I do here is I have two hands, two thumbs under the wrist, and I'm gonna pop up. I don't try to move away and dance away like I did before, because he's got four fingers inside the collar. But we're on the straight collar, he's only got a thumb inside. When I put pressure like this, all the pressure goes against the thumb. When I do the same thing here, all the pressure is going against those four fingers. Okay, it's stronger. The four fingers are stronger than the thumb. So what I'm going to try to do here is rather than trying to pull against those four fingers, I'm going to start lifting straight up. So he's going to make a good strong grip. I start